Recently, I've just finished reading the text of Orientalism written by Edward Said, and that is the text, Orientalism. And I've also finished reading the text written by Shashi Tharoor. The name of the text is An Era of Darkness. He's an Indian politician and writer as well. And after reading these two texts combined, and of course, I cannot but mention another name of a text, which is Grisham's Lost Syndrome and Beyond. It was written by Akbar Ali Khan, one of our pioneering and former leading advisor or economists and think tank. So I'm just about to share my raw experience after reading these three majestic and stupendous texts written by Akbar Ali Khan, Shashi Tharoor, and of course Edward Said. So let's get started. So I will have to read an epigraph and my proposal and my detailed research work about my experience. Okay, so let's get started without any further ado. So long before the academic encyclopedism, scholarship and study of Orientalism, the trajectory of history converged with a set of epochs or eras: the Renaissance era and the Enlightenment era, or the Age of Reasoning. I have a self-explaining question that how was Mount Everest created? A very brief and short answer would be that the Indian continental plate collided with the Eurasian plate, and as a result the colossus Mount Everest was formed. And in between these two gigantic plates, an entire ocean named Tethys was completely buried. That very era of Renaissance had established human glory and significance by replacing the despotism of theology and religious bigotry, and the Age of Reasoning posited humans on the driving seats of both nature and global machine, and the converging collision of Renaissance and Enlightenment had engendered or had given birth to the gargantuan mountain of imperialism that was an all-inclusive phenomenon. And after that, I'm talking about the very age of imperialism. Actually, it was not a particular era, but it was a process of imperialism when Europe got tremendous wealth, knowledge, scholarship, and power to rule over the whole world. So after that, the rampant and gobbling imperialism of Europe begot colonialism, and the colonialist juggernauts or the colonialist gods or lords have consolidated and justified that process by the inexplicably overwhelming and staggeringly complex and metacognitive process of Orientalism that seems no less than rocket science to me. Nota bene or footnote: rocketry is exclusive, not for everyone, but it must have been tasted by all. So even long before the stupendous literary, political, anthropological, economical, philological, philosophical, ontological, epistemological, linguistic, cultural, geopolitical, psychoanalytical, Freudian, Marxist, Hegelian, Nietzschean, Foucauldian delving and investigation of Edward Said, Martinican poet Aimé Césaire, French West Indian psychiatrist and political philosopher from the French colony of Martinique, Ibrahim Frantz Fanon, a Pakistani anti-colonial insurrectionary think tank, Iqbal Ahmed, whom Edward Said called his guru or mentor, and of course Rabindranath Tagore, and lastly Kazi Nazrul Islam, were the knights in shining armor who first raised their volcanic voice and took the thrown gauntlet as a challenge of Western pugnacious lords to unmask the gruesome face of Orientalism in the incognito of innocent apolitical reading and interpretation of Western literary oeuvres. Amongst the constellation of anti-colonials, Edward Said, I think, was the only one whose magnum opus Orientalism has given us the methodology to trace the inventory of history, and it has also given us the set of questionnaires to be asked before the Western pundits, and has given us the eyes that can see us, that can see ourselves and our cultural heritage, our root, our identity, without the eye-washing spectacles of the Occidents. After reading Orientalism thoroughly, I've been disenchanted and disillusioned. Now I can announce with conviction that to me, Shakespeare, Homer, John Donne, John Milton are no more prodigious writers, I'm sorry to say. I will never use these terms for Dhaka University like Pratcher Oxford or Nozrul Islam is the Byron of Orient or Banglar Byron. I will never long for a foreign PhD degree from Canada or UK or Australia. And I would once again accentuate with much larynx and pharynx power that I love Bibhutibhushan's Pather Pachali and Manik Bandyopadhyay's Padma Nodir Majhi. That was completely a mega project of our cultural root, and that gave voices to subalterns. And I would rather say that I love Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's Durgesh Nandini, that was unbiased of Oriental construct. I prefer Adum Surat of Tariq Masood, that was an autobiography of our painter Last Sultan, to Netflix's action thriller that indirectly and passively advocates war on terror and advantage military-industrial complex. So that was the very compact, consolidated and composite understanding of me after reading Orientalism, Shashi Tharoor's An Era of Darkness, and Akbar Ali Khan's Gresham's Law Syndrome and Beyond, particularly mentioning Gresham's Law Syndrome and Beyond. After reading that, I've gotten all the answer that why our bureaucracy, our government, or the entire structuralism of the system of our country is heavily corrupted, how Pygmalion syndrome or how Pygmalionism or how the British bureaucracy has actually responsible and has sowed the poison pill of corruption in our country, in the landmass of Indian subcontinent. So that's all about my understanding about Orientalism and imperialism and cultural hegemony. And I would like to also mention some name that culture or culture industry, that is a production, that is a popular culture production, and that very notion was propounded or proposed by Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer. It also helped me to understand the very imperial culture of Orientalism, how culture is reproduced by Occident. So that's all for the time being. Thank you.